It began with 30 seconds of footage that shouldn't exist. A silent clip, timestamped 4:13 a.m., from a wildlife surveillance camera deep in the Olympic National Forest. The image was shaky, grainy, drenched in fog. But when the frame cleared, something tall moved behind the trees. Not an animal, not a man. Something between both. They said it was a hoax, but the metadata said otherwise. The video came from a restricted area, Site 46, a place that doesn't appear on any map. The Park Service denied everything, but someone inside wanted the truth out. The file arrived in journalist Eli Warren's inbox one cold morning. And as he replayed the clip, frame by frame, a thought burned in his mind. What if the creature isn't hunting us, but warning us? Every expert who's seen the video has vanished from public contact. Every copy uploaded online gets taken down within hours. But the original, that still exists, hidden, waiting. And if you watch closely, at the final second, the creature turns its head. It looks directly into the camera. The video spreads across encrypted forums within hours. Eli posts a still frame, and within minutes, anonymous accounts warn him to delete it. But curiosity wins. He digs into the file's metadata, uncovering GPS coordinates linked to an unregistered Park Service post. The coordinates lead deep into the forest, miles from any public trail. He cross-references the site with internal records and finds nothing. No patrol logs, no wildlife reports, only a name. Site 46. The deeper he looks, the stranger it gets. Some documents are redacted, others wiped completely. But one brief email thread survives. A message between two rangers. The subject line reads, "Containment breach." Eli's voice trembles as he records his first notes for the story. If this footage is real, he says, then something's been living out there a long time. And someone's been trying to keep it quiet. The next morning, Eli drives north toward the Olympic Peninsula. His voiceover plays softly over the sound of rain on glass. The coordinates point to a restricted zone, he says. No trails, no records, no reason for it to exist. Unless it's hiding something. As he drives deeper, radio service fades. The world narrows to the hum of tires, the wipers' slow rhythm, and the forest swallowing the road. Signs for the national park appear, but one is half buried in mud, its words scratched out. Eli stops at an overlook where mist rolls over endless green. He studies the tree line through his camera lens. Every sound feels amplified. The wind, the creak of branches, the distant call of something unidentifiable. For a moment, he swears he sees a dark shape, moving between the trees. When he blinks, it's gone. The voiceover fades. If this is where the video was taken, I'm not the first to find it, but maybe I'll be the last to leave. Eli stops at a ranger station miles from the coordinates, hoping for answers. Inside, the air smells of old coffee and damp paper. A lone ranger at the desk, Dana Cortez, 41, female, looks up with wary eyes. She knows his name before he speaks it. "You shouldn't be here," she says quietly. "Whatever you think you saw, delete it." Eli sets down his recorder, his voice trembling. "I just want the truth." Dana hesitates, glancing toward a closed door marked "Authorized Personnel Only." Then, she slides a folded paper across the counter, hand-drawn coordinates and a note. "Don't go alone." Before he can ask more, the radio on her desk crackles to life. A distorted voice mutters, "Cortez, you're off channel again." Her eyes flash with fear. She kills the radio. Eli pockets the note and leaves, the rain intensifying outside. Through the window, Dana watches him go, her hand shaking slightly. She knows what waits beyond those trees. Night falls. As Eli reaches the coordinates Dana marked, he hikes with a flashlight, cutting through sheets of fog, breath steaming in the cold. His recorder captures each step and whisper of wind. The deeper he goes, the quieter the forest becomes, until it's too quiet. A rusted fence appears ahead, its metal warped and tangled with vines. A faded sign reads, "Wildlife Research Division, do not enter." The padlock has been broken recently. He steps through. Inside, the air feels heavier. He finds strange things. Motion sensors nailed to trees, silent cameras pointing in every direction, claw marks gouged deep into a steel post. Then he hears it, low breathing from beyond the fence line. He raises his light. Between two trees, something huge moves silently away. His voice shakes as he whispers into his recorder. "There's something alive in here, and it's watching me." 2 days later, Eli receives an unmarked package at his motel. No return address, only a faint Park Service seal smudged on the tape. Inside is a USB drive, a voice recorder, and a note that reads, "You wanted proof. Don't trust anyone." He plugs the drive into his laptop. The screen floods with grainy files, ranger reports, security logs, and audio labeled Incident Fortina. A trembling female voice begins to play. "This is Ranger Dana Cortez," it says. "If anyone finds this, tell them I tried to warn you." Eli sits frozen as the recording continues. The sound of trees snapping, distant screams, gunfire, then heavy footsteps, wet and deliberate, passing right by the mic. Dana's whisper is barely audible. It remembers faces. The audio cuts to static. Eli exhales shakily. He knows now that Dana isn't just a whistleblower. She's a survivor. The next evening, Eli meets Dana in secret. She's waiting in an abandoned ranger substation on the edge of Lake Crescent, flashlight dimmed, uniform stripped of its badges. Her voice is low, steady, but her hands tremble slightly as she talks. "I leaked it because they lied," she says. "The Park Service isn't protecting the forest, it's containing it." She tells him about the night Site 46 went dark. Motion sensors failing, radio signals jamming, rangers disappearing. She saw something drag a body out of the floodlight's reach. "It wasn't killing to eat," she says softly. "It was killing to warn us." Eli listens in silence, the recorder between them. Outside, thunder rolls across the lake. Somewhere deep in the trees, a long, mournful cry echoes, low and human-like. Dana's eyes close. "That sound," she whispers. "Once you've heard it, you never sleep right again." Eli studies Dana's files through the night. Aerial photos, redacted reports, and one image that chills him. A thermal scan showing 5 human-shaped heat signatures surrounding a single, much larger one. The timestamps reveal something horrifying. The footage was taken 2 minutes before the surveillance camera caught the creature dragging the deer. That means the rangers saw it first, and they never reported what happened after. Eli replays the final seconds of the thermal clip. One by one, the human signatures vanish. The larger shape moves closer to the camera until the feed cuts out. He mutters to himself. It was hunting the cameras. The motel lights flicker. A shadow passes across the window, though no one's outside. He feels it, the sense of being watched through the lens. Eli confronts Dana again, demanding to know what containment really means. Her answer is barely above a whisper. "They found nests," she says. "Deep in the old growth." Every time one appeared, the order came down to quarantine the area. No news, no reports. They built fences, burned evidence, and told us it was for fire safety. Eli asks how many she's seen. Her eyes flick to the window. "One too close. It knew my name." She hands him a worn Polaroid, a ranger crew posing near a supply truck. "All gone," she murmurs. On the edge of the frame, half hidden by a tree, stands a blurred, dark figure, watching. Eli pockets the photo. The truth is no longer about one creature. It's about how many are left, and how long they've been here. Later that night, Eli uploads snippets of the recordings and files to a private cloud. Within minutes, his laptop freezes, an error message flashing. Access denied. Federal Secure Node. A knock rattles his door. He kills the lights and peers through the peephole. No one's there. Only a government vehicle idling under the streetlight, windows tinted black. He sits back against the wall, heart racing, clutching Dana's recorder. A sudden realization hits him. Someone inside the Park Service is still watching them both. He whispers into his mic, "If you're hearing this..." The leak was never about proof. It was a warning. Something's coming out of containment. Thunder shakes the motel. Outside, a shape moves beyond the glass. Tall, deliberate, silent. The screen fades to black. Eli sets out before dawn. Mist rises like smoke through the pines. The forest silent except for dripping rain. The trail to Site 46 is overgrown, untouched for years. Yet he feels the subtle geometry of human design, hidden wires, flattened brush, and the faint hum of machinery buried beneath the soil. He follows the GPS deeper until his compass begins to fail, spinning erratically. Static buzzes through his recorder, though it's turned off. The air feels charged, humming with unseen electricity. Then he sees it. A perimeter fence stretching through the trees, rusted but intact, topped with cables and faint red lights pulsing in sequence. "This isn't wildlife research," he whispers. "This is containment." Somewhere beyond the fence, something exhales. Long, slow, and almost human. Eli freezes, his flashlight shaking in the fog. He takes one step closer. The red lights flicker once and die. Eli finds a breach in the fence. A jagged tear where metal has been forced outward, not inward. Whatever was inside wanted out. He steps through carefully, recording everything. The forest within feels raw. The trees lean unnaturally, roots split open, bark scorched black. Every few meters he passes equipment, rusted cameras, sensors blinking red, a shattered drone half buried in moss. He kneels beside a crushed ranger helmet, its visor cracked. Inside, dried mud, and something darker. His breath quickens. "Dana," he mutters into the recorder. This place is a graveyard. Suddenly, a branch snaps nearby. He spins toward the sound, flashlight trembling. Between two trees, the faint shape of a human figure stands, still, waiting. Then it turns away and vanishes into the fog. By afternoon, Eli stumbles upon a half-collapsed metal structure, a makeshift outpost marked Station 9. Inside are smashed monitors, a cracked generator, and one functioning camera feed flickering on an old CRT screen. He wipes the dust and presses play. The footage shows a ranger team exploring the same woods weeks earlier. They're laughing, joking. Then one stops, staring into the dark. The image distorts. A shape rushes the camera, too fast to comprehend. The feed cuts. Eli rewinds frame by frame. In a single frozen instant, the creature's face appears, broad, human-like, but wrong. The eyes are deep amber, pupils vertical, the mouth split wide as if halfway through a scream. He stares at it, whispering, "It's not running from us. It's defending something." The power dies. The screen goes black. Eli ventures further until the forest opens into a vast clearing. The ground here is scarred, earth torn up, trees splintered, as if something enormous had fought its way through. In the center lies a concrete hatch, half buried and overgrown. The words "containment access" are barely legible. He forces it open. A rush of cold air escapes, carrying the smell of metal and decay. The stairs descend into darkness. Every instinct screams to turn back, but curiosity overrules fear. He starts down, flashlight trembling, breath echoing off the walls. At the bottom, he finds a corridor lined with cages. Most are empty, one isn't. Inside the remaining cage lies a skeletal hand, long, human, but with claws that curl inward like hooks. Eli steps back, recording. Then a sound comes from deeper within, slow footsteps wet against concrete. He isn't alone. Eli flees the tunnel, heart pounding. He bursts back into the open air, rain hitting his face like glass. He runs until his legs give out and collapses beneath a fallen tree, gasping. His recorder is still running, capturing every ragged breath. Then, from somewhere behind, the forest moves. Trees sway, though there's no wind. A shadow passes, silent, immense. He raises his camera just in time to catch two eyes gleaming through the rain, reflecting his light like twin mirrors. The creature steps forward once, revealing a face both familiar and alien, something that looks almost human beneath layers of matted fur and mud. It doesn't attack, it just stares. Then it turns, disappearing back into the fog. Eli's voice trembles through the recorder. It wasn't hiding from us. We built the cage, and it broke free. Back at his motel, Eli spreads soaked notebooks across the bed, trying to steady his hands. Dana's recorder crackles again, this time with a second file he hadn't played. Archive footage, her voice says, followed by static and a date, 1998. Containment reclamation, Site 46. The video opens on a team of young rangers walking into fog, their laughter nervous. Then the lens tilts, showing something crouched beside the tree line, taller than a man, breathing slow. Orders bark through the radio, then gunfire. Screams. The creature charges, but halfway through the chaos it hesitates, almost confused. One ranger calls out, "It's signaling." Before the feed cuts, Eli rewinds, staring at the frozen frame where its hand is raised. Not in attack, but in warning. He whispers, "They weren't hunting us. We hunted them." Determined to verify the footage, Eli visits an abandoned Park Service archive in Port Angeles. The building is cold, fluorescent lights dead. He preys open a rusted cabinet and discovers film reels labeled Operation Silence. One reel bursts to life on a dusty projector. Grainy faces appear. Agents, scientists, rangers. A younger agent, Robert Hensley, 52 now, in the footage, mid-30s male, stares into the camera, saying, "Specimen is responsive. Mimicry confirmed." Then, a low growl fills the audio. The camera shakes. Hensley shouts off-screen, "Shut it down!" The film snaps, melting in the projector's heat. Eli stands in darkness, the faint smell of burnt celluloid hanging heavy. He realizes Hensley is still alive, and still covering it up. Eli tracks Hensley to a decommissioned wildlife observation tower overlooking the forest. The man looks older now, gray-haired, eyes sunken but alert. "You shouldn't have gone in," Hensley says without turning. "That fence wasn't to keep it in. It was to keep us out." He explains that decades ago the government tried to relocate the creatures, an attempt to move what they called Type 3 humanoids. They retaliated, destroying the facility. After that, Hensley sighs, "We stopped calling them animals." Eli asks why the truth was buried. Hensley glances at the trees and says, "Because they remember faces, and they've started coming back." Lightning flashes through the window, revealing claw marks etched into the tower's steel. Fresh ones. That night, Hensley gives Eli a final drive, classified footage from thermal drones. It shows multiple heat signatures emerging from the forest perimeter, moving with deliberate formation. "They're reclaiming territory," Hensley murmurs. "Containment failed years ago." The last frame freezes on a close-up. A creature standing upright, hand pressed against the camera lens, leaving a streak of blood across it. Eli stares in silence. For the first time, Fear gives way to something else. Respect, even sorrow. "They're not monsters," he says softly. "They're survivors." Outside, a roar rolls across the valley, echoing like thunder made of breath. Hensley's voice trembles. "That's not one of them. That's more than one." Hours later, the generator dies. The forest outside falls into utter silence. Then, from below the tower, footsteps. Slow, wet, deliberate. Eli kills the light, peering through the rain-smeared glass. Shapes move between the trees, barely visible. One tilts its head upward, staring directly at him. For a moment, there's a strange calm, as if both species recognize the inevitability of this meeting. Then the creature steps forward, placing a massive hand on the tower's support beam. The structure groans under the pressure. Hensley whispers, "It followed you out." Eli grips his camera, recording even as the tower shudders. His voice trembles. "It's not returning, it's reclaiming." Morning creeps through the fog like bruised light. Eli wakes in the half-collapsed tower, shivering, his recorder still running. Hensley is gone. Only his badge remains, crusted with blood, bent at the corner. Eli pockets it and begins transmitting everything he's found through an encrypted uplink. Files, audio, video. The truth spilling into the net before anyone can stop it. Each upload triggers a burst of static across his laptop. Then the power cuts. He stares out into the forest. The fog swirls as helicopters thunder in the distance. Over his radio, a voice he doesn't recognize says, "Cease transmission. Containment breach confirmed." He whispers to himself, "It's already too late." Somewhere below, trees snap like bones. Eli flees down the mountain road as black trucks thunder past, their windshields armored, no plates. He hides his camera in a hollow log, muttering coordinates into his recorder. Behind him, flames begin to rise. Controlled burns meant to erase evidence. The forest howls under the weight of the wind, branches bending as if alive. Through the smoke, he glimpses something impossible. Multiple silhouettes moving parallel to the fire line, keeping pace with the trucks. Government drones hover overhead, their lights flashing like artificial stars. One swoops low, scanning the ground. For a split second, its thermal feed displays a massive heat signature right behind Eli. Then it cuts to black. He runs faster. Voice cracking, "They're trying to bury this," but it's not staying buried. Hours later, Eli hides in an abandoned ranger cabin. The air smells of smoke and metal. He replays the drone footage frame by frame. One brief, perfect moment where the creature appears beside him, almost protecting him from the fire. He scrolls deeper through recovered logs, containment schedules, breeding reports, relocation attempts. There were dozens of specimens, all marked terminated. A noise outside stops him cold. Boots crunch on gravel. Through the cracks, a flashlight sweeps the room. A voice calls his name softly, almost kindly. Then another voice joins, lower, rasping, not human. It mimics the same word, Eli. He turns off the recorder and holds his breath. When dawn comes, Eli emerges to find the forest quiet, too quiet. The air tastes of ash. Black trucks sit abandoned along the road. Doors open, radios still hissing. He finds no soldiers, only tracks. Human boots beside larger, bare prints pressed deep into the mud. A government transmission hums faintly through a discarded radio. A voice recites coordinates, then a chilling phrase. "Operation Silence completed." He realizes what that means. They burned everything. Not to contain the creatures, but to cover their retreat. Eli raises his camera one last time, filming the empty horizon. "They tried to erase the proof," he says softly, "but they forgot the witnesses." That evening, Eli broadcasts a live stream from an unknown location. His face is gaunt, voice trembling but steady. Behind him, A dark ridgeline stretches against a dying sunset. "I've seen what they're hiding," he says. "Not monsters, remnants, survivors of whatever came before us." He uploads every file, every image, every voice recording. The feed begins to glitch, pixelating his face. Somewhere off camera, a deep rumble shakes the ground. He turns toward the sound, eyes wide. "They're closer than you think," he whispers. The stream cuts to static, but in the final frame, faint and blurred, a tall figure stands behind him in the fading light. 48 hours after Eli's live stream, the files hit every encrypted channel across the world. Forums, news boards, dark web drops, each filled with fragments of his footage. Most are quickly erased, but one file survives. SID46, uncut.mov. The clip opens with static, then fades into the original surveillance angle, the creature dragging the deer carcass. But now the missing seconds appear. The figure stops, glances toward the camera, then raises its hand slowly. A sound follows, low, rhythmic, almost like words. Experts claim the audio isn't random. It's patterned, deliberate, as if the creature was trying to speak. Across social media, millions ask the same question. Were the cryptids never beasts at all? But another branch of us, forgotten by history? Governments respond instantly, press releases denying the footage's validity, agencies calling it digitally altered. Yet whistleblowers emerge, one after another. Former rangers, pilots, lab techs, they all describe the same thing. Containment sites built long before the first official cryptid sighting. Dana's name appears among the leaks. Her voice returns in a new recording. They tried to make us believe they were myths. Easier to bury a story than a species. Eli's legacy grows online. Viewers slow the footage frame by frame, decoding hand gestures, comparing sounds to ancient languages. Across the globe, people gather in forests at night, holding cameras toward the tree line, waiting. Some swear the creatures are already answering. Night after night, new sightings flood the web. Blurry shapes in the woods, strange footprints, mimicry caught on phones. Most are hoaxes, but one stands out. A 6-minute clip recorded by hikers near Olympic National Park. The footage is crystal clear. A creature stands at the edge of the clearing, staring directly into the camera. Then, from off-screen, a second one steps forward. A smaller figure, walking upright, glancing nervously toward the larger. The world pauses. For the first time, there's no violence, only presence. The larger creature turns toward the smaller one, resting a massive hand on its shoulder. The final seconds show both turning away, vanishing into fog. Humanity watches, breathless. The internet fractures. Scientists demand samples. Skeptics cry deepfake. Meanwhile, sightings grow too consistent to ignore. Government data leaks prove the existence of containment zones worldwide. Eli's final upload, scheduled before his disappearance, activates automatically. His voice plays over black screen. Maybe the myths were never lies. Maybe they were memories. The footage fades in. Aerial shots of burned forests, empty cages, and one final drone clip. Fog, parting to reveal hundreds of heat signatures moving north in silent procession. Then, stat. News anchors can't explain it. Satellites lose signal over the Pacific Northwest for 3 nights straight. When they return, entire valleys are empty. No people, no wildlife. Only footprints heading deeper into wilderness. Weeks later, a final leak surfaces. Security footage from the ranger station where it all began. The creature stands before the same camera that recorded the first sighting. It gazes calmly into the lens, its breath fogging the frame. For 6 full seconds, it doesn't move. Then it kneels, placing something on the ground. A small, mud-covered object, Eli's recorder. It turns, vanishing into the mist once more. Experts debate symbolism. Believers call it proof of understanding. But for those who watched from the beginning, the message is clear. The myths were never hunting us. They were waiting for us to listen. Sani. What? A month after the second leak, the world feels quieter. News outlets avoid the topic. The government stops denying it altogether. Instead, new regulations quietly close off vast sections of national parks under ecological recovery. But online, a movement grows. People begin returning to the forest, not to hunt, but to listen. Eli's final recordings surface in fragments, his voice calmer now, almost peaceful. They were never hiding from us, he says. They were hiding for us. Satellite imagery shows strange new clearings forming deep in protected land. Patterns that look less like damage and more like construction. Structures. Paths. A re-emergence. The wilderness is waking. In a secure briefing room, Agent Robert Hensley, 52, male, sits before a committee, hands clasped. Cameras record every word. He speaks slowly, voice stripped of authority. We misunderstood them. They weren't anomalies. They were remnants of a design older than our species. One senator asks, "Why did you hide it?" Hensley looks up, eyes hollow. Because we were afraid of seeing ourselves in them. Outside the building, protesters chant Eli's name. Across screens worldwide, his footage plays on loop. The moment the creature kneels, returning the record, humanity watches its own reflection through the eyes of something once called a monster. In the forests where it all began, vegetation grows unnaturally fast. The burned clearings from the containment fires are now dense with new light. Researchers studying regrowth report strange symbols appearing in moss-covered stones, spiral carvings matching petroglyphs found in prehistoric caves. At night, motion sensors capture faint heat traces, figures standing near the tree line watching quietly but never approaching. The line between myth and nature has blurred completely. Dana Cortez's final message plays during a podcast broadcast. Maybe the stories weren't warnings, she says. Maybe they were invitations to remember what we once were. A year passes. The forests of the Pacific Northwest are declared permanently restricted. Satellites no longer scan those coordinates. No aircraft fly overhead. And yet, every few months, new audio files appear online. Low hums, rhythmic beats, strange vocalizations. Linguists recognize repeated structures, as though the forest itself is speaking a language humanity once knew. Across the world, people gather at night around speakers, listening to the sounds. They call it the returning. For a species that thought itself alone, it feels like the first honest silence in history. In a closing montage, Eli's recovered footage fades between past and present. The first grainy clip, the ranger station, the creature turning toward the lens, a final voiceover. Elis plays softly. We thought discovering them would end the myths. Instead, it ended our ignorance. He pauses. What if the world was never meant to be just ours? The screen fades to black. Then one last frame. A live forest feed. The camera trembles slightly. A figure steps into view. Taller than any human, motion slow, deliberate. It stops before the lens, tilts its head, and whispers something indecipherable. Static. Static.